What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and I have to say right away, thanks for all the support on Patreon. I have a bunch of new guys helping me out on the Patreon now, and I want to say thank you for that. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, my link is down below, because I am a full-time YouTuber, and if you've ever tried to survive on a YouTube budget, it's pretty hard. So thanks again for guys who are supporting me there and buying the stuff through my links. That really means a lot. But today's review is all about the TX18S by RadioKing, and I'm gonna show you this on the bench. It is a radio that can pretty much bind up to just about any type of quad, airplane, RC car, or FPV race quad out there on the planet, including even the Hubsan toy drones and some of the SEMA drones. It has a whole giant list of protocols that are built into the internal multi-protocol module. It is a 4-in-1 multi-protocol module. It does run 2.4 gigahertz. It also comes, I believe it comes with an extra antenna if you decide to run it 915. And in the back, we have a JR module bay, and it opens up in the back to reveal this bay right here, which you can add on different types of multi-protocol modules. On this one in particular, I would like to see that they maybe extended this kickstand out a little further to accommodate some larger style modules with antennas that are for long range that need to come out past this kickstand. That's always a really good thing for manufacturers to do that. And there is a new radio that came out that's going to come up on my channel that I'm going to show you guys that they actually did extend the kickstand out. So one thing that I always look for, and being able to take off this antenna and replace it with something else for the internal module is also great. So this is the internal module antenna, which is replaceable. Thumbs up there. And back here, this would be your external setting. So if you're in the radio and you're wondering why your quad or airplane doesn't bind up to your receiver, you might actually be on the external setting trying to bind. So keep in mind that when you're trying to bind up your receivers, if you're brand new to this hobby, that you need to be on the internal module, binding up to S-Bus D16 or D8 or whatever it is you're trying to bind up to. But this looks pretty good so far. It doesn't have any super fancy bling on it or anything like that, like you guys have seen in some of my Facebook posts recently. There's another company who released a pretty awesome radio with a bunch of different skins that you can get on it. I know you guys like to accessorize, so we're gonna check this radio out for what it is, and I'll give you my pros and cons on this radio as well at the very end. And we'll just go through some of the basic features on this radio, and I will get right into it for you guys. Here we go. This is pretty much the lineup that you're looking at when it comes to finding this style radio for 4-in-1 or 5-in-1 multi-protocol internal module or external type of bays that you could possibly want out there. These are the 4 top ones right now, and everybody's reviewing all of these. We're going to do individual reviews on these on the channel. I've already reviewed the Jumper T18 on the channel previously, and if you're thinking about the T18S here, this is sort of a mashup of the Jumper T18 and the Radio Master TX18S. So RadioKing has sort of taken this style design and sort of mashed it up a bit. So there are several different options that you can get with Radio Master, and this one's coming up on the channel. This review is going to be kind of crazy. They do offer a bunch of different types of bling that you can add on gold or metal, like silver, and a bunch of cool anodized aluminum options. So I like this a lot, and they customized this one for me with drone camps on the power button. But with RadioKing, it is the cheapest of the bunch. So if you're looking for a radio that's going to be cheaper than any of these other 3, then the RadioKing does win on price. And you're also getting that 18S option on there. So most of the switches and the layouts of all 4 of these radios are exactly the same. And it's funny because if you look at the T16S over here and the T16S over here, it even has the same chicken feet on the top switches right here. So these buttons up here are exactly the same as the TX16 series models, and Jumper is the only one who has the flat buttons across the top, but that doesn't really matter. Now, one other thing that I can tell you about is that some of these models do have sort of a hiss in the radio. When you turn it on, the speaker has a little bit of a hiss, And the speaker on the TX18S by RadioKing is good. It doesn't have that weird hissing sound. Also, I found that the scroll wheel on this one was actually pretty locked in. I saw another review where the guy said his was a little bit fast and slippery, and it might be that you need to open up this radio and tighten up the screw, because at the factory it could be that the person didn't tighten it down enough for you. So if you're kind of like trying to make a name on your model and it's skipping, you can tighten this jog wheel up on the inside of the radio. So that's one thing for you guys to know about if you do decide to open up the back. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the RadioKing a little closer, and I will show you the options that it has. Okay, so like I said, it does have very similar switches. They're absolutely the same as the other models here, for the exception of the jumper switches across the top. They both have this 6 switches across the top, and mostly these are used for iNav. If you're new to flying FPV or working with these types of radios, the included OS on here is an open source OS that most people do use. It's called OpenTX, and most of the radios do now come with it flashed. So if you need to update it, you can do it with the USB cable that's included, or you can do it with the micro SD card that is in the back of the radio here. Here is the micro SD card in the very back right here, and if you pull that out, you can load the new firmware up on it. And if you're doing Lewis scripts and things like that, you can add images to the folders and create your own custom menus as well. So plenty of options there for adding things onto these radios. But while we have this open also, this is the 18650 bay, and it does have this little 2S connector right here. These are great because they are fairly cheap and they run a long time, much better than my Lipos. So it also can accommodate much larger size. I believe they're around 2100 size Lions if you want to, but you're going to have to solder those up yourself if you're going to maximize that battery space right there. But the hatch goes on pretty easy, and back here we also have this release right here, and 2 release buttons here will get it off, and you can see the pins inside there, and that's for your JR bay. Very standard there. Been around for a long time, many years. And I have to say that the rubber grips on the back of this one feel pretty good. They feel pretty grippy, even more grippy. See, with the jumper, there's actually a larger bumper here, which I kind of like this compared to the jumper. There's not as much curve right there, so I feel like I'm holding on to the radio a little better when I'm flying. It just feels more natural and ergonomic, whereas this one's a little smaller. And these rubber grips are actually pretty grippy, so they feel really good. The only thing I wish that RadioKing would do is follow up with the newer style kickstand that everybody's doing. So Jumper is doing this foldable kickstand, which is great. It also has enough room here. It's a little taller out this way to accommodate your bay and any type of long range antenna you might have coming off the back. So that's one thing. This one's fixed, this one bends, and a lot of times when I'm putting it in a case, it allows it to be just a little smaller in the case as well. Same thing on the TX16S. We've got that extended kickstand back here. So this is really nice right here. And actually, it's probably the freest moving of all of these. And we're in love with the colors on that one. But you have this standard size aluminum strap hook system right here, and usually what I do is I put it in the very middle because that hangs the best and makes it the most balanced. And if you do fly with these types of radios, I do recommend using the neck strap, because I have dropped one of these radios on a road trip before and then not been able to fly for the rest of the trip. It was quite sad, but please do use a neck strap. It might save your radio or save you from dropping it on accident. You also have wheels on the side here. These are kind of like gimbal type devices. If you use a gimbal, or you have some type of gimbal that you want to move up and down. We also have a 2-position switch here, SF switch, and I usually use this one for arming because it's right where my index finger is. Next one down is a 3-position switch, another 3-position here, 3-position here, 3-position here, 3-position here, 3-position, and lastly a momentary switch, which is nice. Up at the top we have a little trapdoor here, and that opens up for a USB-C port right there, and this is probably going to be your trainer jack right here. So if you want to hook it up to another radio, you can also do that. But in the middle here, we have this 2 power switches. And this is nice because in your box, it turns into emergency mode if you press 1. So it's gonna do that, and then it's gonna turn back off. So it's just a momentary thing. You have to press both buttons here for the TX to start up. So that is a really good thing. So we're gonna press both, and the speaker's quite loud. And the SD card warning, it wants me to update that, but it takes you to this main screen right here. And this is where you can just go dive deep into this radio, and it's really great because we have a ton of options with this one. So we have a return button here, system button here, we have model, page, and tele right here. So that's telemetry, and that'll take us straight into the radio telemetry. We can set up different widgets here. I'll just bring this a little closer so you guys can see it, but there's all kinds of different screen layouts you can do. You can do flight mode, on and off, trim, switches, and sliders here. And we can page over to see the rest of this stuff, add different main view if you want. And you can mix this up for your models. If you wanted a different main view, you can do that for individual models, which is kind of neat. So I'm gonna go ahead and return here, go back out, show you the system as well. This says Crossfire Configure, FrSky, GA Suite, SBEC, SXR, Graupner, and Spectrum. So this is something that has already been put on here from OpenTX. And let's go ahead and page over. SD card. This is important for you guys that are going to be adding Lua scripts, or you want to add different images of your model. You can actually take a picture of your quadcopter, and then you can put it in this folder on the SD card and have it show up on the model screen, which is really, really cool. So logs, other models here, you can make copies of models. Your radio scripts are in there, sounds, that's for your total sound. You can add all kinds of different wave files in here and make up your own sounds if you want. We have different themes, so you can find themes and download those, and widgets, of course. And it shows us that we have OpenTX, and we can click on that. Maybe it'll show me something. Oh, looks like I need to set the date. You can do that, the time, the battery range meter from 6.7 to 8.3 volts. You can turn off the sound and the haptic in here as well. Your wave volumes are in there. And it looks like I have no key for haptic, but if you want it to beep when the battery gets low, you can also do that, a certain voltage. And the backlight mode, we can turn that up or down, which is kind of cool. So if it's too bright, you can turn that up and down. And now we're gonna go down and power off delay. This is something that has bothered me with OpenTX for a while, because around the early days of OpenTX, we didn't have that option for powering down. So you'd have to press both buttons, and it would take at least like 5 seconds to be able to turn the radio off. And it took too long. So now I usually like to turn it down actually to 0, and then watch this, immediately off. Now that might be dangerous for some people to do that, but I like it to turn off that quickly.
Welcome to OpenTX.
And I could probably turn the volume down just a little bit loud for me, but the good news about this is that this wheel actually performs pretty well for me. So let's go ahead to the model menu. And the way you get to the model menu is you press and hold on the big wheel, and then we can say model select. So now I only have one model in here, but let's go ahead and duplicate this model. And that's how you duplicate a model, just like that. Really hold down and select duplicate there. Pretty easy. So now we're gonna go ahead and select that model. That one's selected, so we're gonna go out. And if you want to get to the model, you can press the model button. And to select a model, long press this log wheel, or the jog wheel there. So we can go ahead and press model again, and now I can name my model. So let's name it Chimera, because we just flew the Chimera on the channel, you guys. I'm gonna go to H and I. So this wheel's working a lot better than one of my other ones sitting behind it, and I can't remember which one it was that had too fast of a wheel. Sometimes these companies, like, they don't get screwed on right on the inside of the radio, so what happens is it kind of jumps a letter when you're trying to select a letter. But you can see that this is pretty good here. It's not jumping letters, which is really good. So I'm gonna press that, and now we have Chimera on there. If you're trying to bind a model, you go down to the very bottom, and right now we have internal RF is off. So it's set to Crossfire by default, which is kind of strange. But you can go back to off here, turn that off. And then if you're using, say, FreeSky, you can go here and turn it on and open up multi-protocol internal module. And that's your FlySky. It starts out with FlySky. Just click on that, and look at this. You can scroll through like all kinds of different models. FrSky, FY, And we got high tech in here. It's amazing. This list goes on and on. Hubsan, J6 Pro, and it goes on and on and on. MJX models, Potency, which is like some kind of crazy Amazon toy drones, Propel. It has a bunch of stuff I've never even heard of in here. And the cool thing about this radio is that all of this is expandable. So, I mean, Walkera, for crying out loud, WFly, WL Toys. I mean, let's go. Whatever you're looking for, whatever type of drone you're flying, SEMA to FR Sky to Spectrum. They have DSM on here. It's just really, really awesome that these radios, and all 4 of these radios have that same multi-protocol, by the way. So if you're wondering about my nails, it is 2020, guys. So I have a punk rock and skater background. So sometimes I do paint my fingernails. And I really don't care what you think about that. But so, okay, multi-protocol. We're going to leave that on FR Sky. Okay. Plus, we live in the US and I live in a really liberal area. So depending on what part of the world you're from, I guess, you know, I could get some dirty looks, but that's okay. So we're going to put it on FR Sky D16 right there. And now it's usually set to AETR. So that's really important for your setup for your sticks in Betaflight to be right. And then you can go down to bind and telemetry on 1 through 8, bind, and we should hear a beeping. Yep, we do hear a beeping. So good. Now it's looking for the receiver, which we don't have right now, but that is pretty much the quickest model explanation for this radio. And also you can go even further. So we're going to hit model again, and now you can go through all these different settings. In the very top right here, we have the page button, which will bring us through. So if you're flying a heli, this is the heli swash plate setup. So swash type, we can select that. If I was setting up a helicopter, 120, 120X, 90 degree, but pretty cool. So I'm going to leave that not set, because I've never actually set up a heli on one of these radios. It's kind of intimidating to me, but eventually I'll do it. Flight modes are in here if you're running iNav or you want to get crazy. And for your inputs, this is where you can go and reverse servos and things, servo direction. You can add, if you long press here, you can go into edit and you can change your expo as well. I usually add about 25 to 30% of expo if I'm running some big type of control surface 3D type of plane, like the Challenger. Most recently flew the Challenger and the Bighorn. The Bighorn is on the channel. You can go back and watch that. That's pretty cool. So now we have aileron. If we want to get back out of that, we can press return, and then we have aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder there. And all those look good. And if you want to add a switch, it's actually pretty easy, guys. You just go down to number 5 here. This is an open channel. That will be channel number 5. So right now it's set to S1. Let's go ahead and click on that until it's blinking. And then say you want to set up an arm switch. That's SF right there. So click on that. And all you have to do is touch the switch that you want to set up and it'll automatically go to it, which is really nice. Now don't put any expo or anything on that. And we're going to go back and we'll set up another switch. And number 6 is channel 6. So we're going to go click on that again with our wheel. And then I want this one to be SE. So that one's SE. And that's usually going to be my modes switch. And a lot of times I do it here, or you can do it on SB. And SB is a little bit safer because it's a little further away from your arm switch. So you don't accidentally do your arm switch on accident, because you can have your quad drop out of the air. I've done that in the past, so I'll probably end up doing it in the future too. But over here on SC is usually where I add my beeper, and that will be on channel 7. So I'll just go down here, flip that switch. Now SC can be my beeper channel. So in Betaflight, this will look like aux1, aux2, and aux3 for you. So if you're looking for those, switch them around in the channel maps menu, and you'll see them moving. And then you can go back into your modes menu, and you can set up your switches there and activate them as aux1, 2, 3. So this one does have a lot of pros to it. Number one, starting with the price of this one, it is cheaper than some of the competitors back there. So that's one thing to think about. And these 3 have fairly adjustable neck strap hooks, which I like. This one has 3 different positions. The TX18S back here only has 2 positions here, and the jumper has 3 as well. it almost looks exactly like the same thing. And the TX18S back here only has 1 on it. So I don't really think it matters that it's that adjustable, because I usually don't fight. As long as I can hook it up in the dead center where the CG is of the radio, so it'll hang correctly. And that's your own personal choice there. So one other thing that I didn't tell you in this review is that the lights in the middle, the same little chicken feed right here in the middle, this lets you know that the radio is happy. If it comes up as red, something's wrong with something inside the radio. It could be a hardware issue, but if you see blue, your radio is good. So this is about the end of my review on the RadioKing. And again, I think that as far as pros and cons go, the pro is that it's less expensive than the competitors, and you could pick this one up for a little bit cheaper. But it just, again, it seems to be, it's definitely a mashup between the jumper radios and the Radio Master T16S. So yeah, that is what it is. And as far as this company, they are a newer company. So if you're going to put your trust into a newer company with not a lot of track record yet, that's totally up to you guys. So a lot of guys in the US want some extreme support. So be careful with the company that you're looking at when you go to buy a radio, that they will give you a little bit of tech support if you do need it. So we're looking for reliability and something that we can just keep updating over the years. And OpenTX is constantly having new updates, and it's a really awesome OS. So I'm Justin Davis, guys. Thanks again for watching my reviews, and hopefully you learned something today in this video. Hall effect gimbals, super nice, the way of the future. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.